Okay, why don't we get started here? We have a limited amount of time because the town board is going to start its work session in about 10-15 minutes. But I want to welcome everybody to the town of Brookhaven. And several months ago, we took a trip, many of us, on the lower portion of the Carmans River. And while we were on that lower portion, we saw a bald eagle flying over top of us. And I took that as a sign. And it was a sign of the importance of this effort. Because don't forget, this is not just a local effort. The Wertheim Preserve is a national preserve. This is a national priority to protect this river. And we are literally on the brink of history. And in some respect, when you look at the history of Long Island, history has already been made. Just over 3 months ago, we set a deadline that many said was impossible. We created a study group and a technical advisory committee made up of committed and talented government officials, environmentalists, developers, and others under the leadership of Dr. Lee Koppelman. And we told them that we needed a proposed protection plan for the Carmans River watershed. And we needed to resolve literally years of conflict in 90 days. And look what happened. People complain about the pace of government. They complain about the pace of decision-making. Look at what stands before you. You had interests that haven't talked for years. Some say maybe 17 years. In the same room, at the same table, hashing out a protection plan. Sometimes I understand it wasn't pretty. But that's the process. And now and the study group, they got it done. They drafted a comprehensive plan that defines the watershed, identifies nitrogen standards, among other major accomplishments. And I want to point this out. Of the 25 recommended action items in this plan, 24 were approved unanimously. 24 of 25 were approved unanimously. So I want to take this moment, and I'd ask you to join me. Let's give the members of the study group a round of applause. This study group literally did the impossible, and as elected officials, we owe it to them to continue the process. And it is a process. And now we embark upon the legislative process. I urge the members of the study group to engage in that process. Talk to the council members. We're going to undoubtedly have to have state legislative action, engage with the state elected officials, and to my fellow board members, on Tuesday, I'm going to ask them to simply accept this proposed plan, which is a set of recommendations, and then we'll start a process where we set public hearings to take whatever action we deem necessary going forward. We're undoubtedly going to have to tweak some of this. But read it. Digest it. Talk to the stakeholders in the study group if you have questions. And out of that process, I guarantee you, we will end up with a protection plan that protects this jewel of a natural resource. We have many people here today. In fact, I think we have the entire town board here today, if I'm not mistaken. And I thank my board members who are here today, Dan Panico, Tim Mazie, Connie Keppert, Kathy Walsh, Jane Bonner, and Steve Fiore Rosenfeld for being here. We have our wonderful clerk, Ms. Clerk, Pat Eddington, who's here next to me. And we have just a limited amount of time, so I am going to just ask for 5 people to share their thoughts here today, and then we'll open it up for 1 or 2 brief questions. First and foremost, though, I'm going to ask Dr. Koppelman to come forward. Dr. Koppelman, this is hopefully added to the list of your amazing achievements in Suffolk County, and you have that breadth of experience and you can place this effort in that context, but I just want to personally thank you for your tireless effort in this regard.
What the supervisor was really alluding to is I'm the dinosaur in the group. I'd like to place this in somewhat of a focus. Of all the towns in Nassau and Suffolk County, all 13, Brookhaven has and has had the most outstanding planning record, not only in planning, but accomplishing the planning. And today is historic in the sense that it's a continuation of this kind of history. Important because it has been bipartisan. Planning has never been an issue of elected officials saying aye or nay, depending on partisan concerns. And I've been involved now, fortunately, from my point of view, because it keeps me alive, in terms of a variety of studies, Hamlet studies, general planning studies, and this one is a continuation in environmental planning that can add to the luster of what had been accomplished. And none of it could have been accomplished without the town board, and in particular on this study, couldn't have been accomplished. I noticed the supervisor said, we did this, we did that. But the truth of the matter is, it was the directive of the supervisor that said, I want 2 committees, and you got 90 days, and I expect to have this on my desk at the 90 days. No discussion, no debate. Well, Brookhaven was the first town to follow the 208 study, which led to the Pine Barren Act of 1993, by enacting 5-acre zoning before any other community in order to do the first major environmental zoning action anywhere on Long Island. That was a great beginning, and that was followed by the open space programs that the entire town board had supported referenda that put up more money than most of the towns combined, and that program still continues. And there's a whole list of accomplishments, of which this one follows in that spirit. The Hamlet studies, and again on a nonpartisan basis, have brought planning and the public into the process. I had the pleasure of working with legislator Rosenthal in terms of the Port Jefferson Terryville Hamlet study, and equal pleasure, in fact a little more pleasure because I get a kiss on occasion from legislator Jane Bonner in terms of the 25A study. I'm not suggesting I get a kiss from you.
I was asking.
Now that would be history.
But in terms of importance, the significance of this study, in contrast to everything that preceded it, is this is the first study that set major environmental conditions for one of the most significant environmental attributes that this splendid island enjoys, and that is the preservation of an important major watershed area. Of the 4 major watershed areas, Peconic, Nissaquag, Connetquot, and Carmans, this is the only plan extant that deals with at least one of the 4 watersheds. So I hope this will be a model for the other watersheds as well. And that's an important factor because what occurs here in Brookhaven translates elsewhere. And the last point I'd mention is that in terms of courage, and this again was bipartisan, the farm program that the county created and many of the towns, especially Brookhaven, has followed for the protection and enhancement of a cultural aspect of life, namely agriculture, which maintains the rural aspects of our community. That has always been a voluntary program. We had a problem in Brookhaven in that there was one agricultural holdout, the hole in the donut, where the town had already spent scores of millions of dollars. The county has done the same, saving an agricultural belt of over 500 acres, and right in the heart of it was one person who was not interested in preserving agriculture, and I'm talking about a farmer. And the town board had the courage to condemn that property, even though the program had started and continues to this day to be voluntary. And if you know anything about government, the exercise of eminent domain is taken very carefully, very judiciously, but more importantly, very rarely. And for the town board to have had the wisdom to do that, I personally applauded them at the time, and I welcome this opportunity to reiterate it. And today is another opportunity to extend that sterling record of accomplishment. And so I congratulate the supervisor, the town board, and certainly the staff and the citizens who worked with us. And this has been a most happy experience. And perhaps one of the happiest ones, as chairman, I had the opportunity to tell Dick Amper to shut up. But it didn't work.
Well, I'm going to ask Lee if you
So-
can come. If you can come. Dr. Carmans, you can come forward, and if you could hand me this is a little bit of ceremony here. If you could hand me the plan, and then I will distribute the plan to the board members at the work session. So, Dr. Carmans, thank you very much. Great.